here to introduce the European Day of Early Music, which is the 21st of March 2018. It's a great pleasure to be the ambassador of this event, which is a European and international event. The 21st of March is the first day of spring, as we all know, and it is the birthday of Johann Sebastian Bach, who was one of the greatest composers in the history of all music. 2018 is also the year of European cultural heritage, so this March 21st has a special impact in Europe and internationally because of this celebration of Europe. This is an event which is planned for everyone, all ages, all music lovers, not only specialists who are interested in music before Mozart or before Beethoven. It's for everyone, it's for all ages, it's for all sorts of concerts, social media, videos, recordings. We have a lot to offer on this day, and so we hope that you will enjoy all these different offerings on the 21st of March 2018. When we speak about early music in 2018, it basically means medieval music, Renaissance music, and Baroque music. So in these repertoires, you have a lot of vocal music, you have a lot of instrumental music, you have a lot of music that is conceived for voices and instruments. And we have to remember all the time that this is a big effort on the part of composers, interpreters, and also on the part of musical instrument makers. Here, we're surrounded basically by musical instruments. We're surrounded by viols, organetti, percussion instruments, harpsichords, virginals, krumhorns, recorders, Gothic harps. There's everything just in one house. So one has to imagine all of this sort of transferred onto a big European or even international platform. So, and we also have a lot of research that has a direct bearing on the interpretation of all of this repertoire. And there are teachers for singers, teachers for instrumentalists, there are record companies, concert organizers, private initiatives, social media. There's a real embarras de richesse in everything that we're doing as a big community of early music and early musicians. One of the questions about what we do in the field of early music is it's a sort of debate about whether or not it's the preservation of a tradition or whether it's an act of contemporary creation. But actually, it's both. Especially for a medieval repertoire, where you really have to know what you're doing. You really have to have done your homework in order to approach in any way the performance of this music as a singer or as an instrumentalist. But even for Renaissance music and Baroque music, there's lots and lots of research about instruments, for instance. Vocal technique is also part of this, but instruments, instrumentarium, how instruments were used at the time, what the composer's wish was. And we are still actually trying to figure this out. This movement began with Nicolas Harnoncourt and Gustave Leonhardt in the 1950s and 60s, but we're not finished with it yet. So we really have to keep going and scratching much lower than the surface to find out what the composer's intention of this repertoire really was. Because we're actually living in a moment where the composer's intention is beginning to be something that we don't think about anymore. And that's really, really dangerous, because we can't really create anything without having a very finessed idea of what the composer's intention actually was. And it might only ever be guesswork, but we at least have to persevere and continue our guesswork. Nothing is ever definitive, but one has to offer one's solutions on the highest level, and that's what we're all attempting to do. Capriccio Stravagante has grown in 30 years into something which has become actually more than one ensemble. There's Capriccio Stravagante, which is the chamber music ensemble. There's the Capriccio Stravagante Renaissance Orchestra, which has a very, very large Renaissance instrumentarium in a 16th and early 17th century repertoire. There's Capriccio Stravagante Les 24 Violons, which is the large French 17th, 18th century style orchestra. The Capriccio Stravagante viols, Capriccio Stravagante recorders, and all of this is possible because of the enormous influence that my colleagues and our predecessors have had in the last decades. This whole idea of having so many instrumentalists and so many fine singers instrumentalists and singers, available at this point is the result of something that actually began in the 50s and 60s with people who were basically self-taught, who wanted to know how this music sounded on the instruments of the time. That's what Nicolas Harnoncourt and Gustav Leonhardt were up to in Vienna in the 50s. They just wanted to know how the music of former times sounded on the instruments that were known by the composers. And it's fascinating that this thing took off and formed one of the most important movements in classical music of the entire 20th century, even though it only began in the last half of the 20th century. In fact, the early music world allows for an enormous amount of expression and an enormous amount of repertoire. For the last 30 years, I've played solo harpsichord recitals, duo harpsichord recitals, trio concerts, quartet concerts, quintet concerts, sextet concerts, Capriccio Stravagante concerts, Capriccio Stravagante Renaissance Orchestra concerts, or Capriccio Stravagante Les 24 Violons concerts, followed by recordings of all of this sacred and secular repertoire for different labels, for our own label, Paradiso, teaching, sitting on competition juries. It just allows an enormous amount of activity with instrumentalists and singers of all ages, of musical instrument builders of all ages, of concert halls of all sizes, publics between 150 and 2,000 people. It's a really very rich and diverse thing that we've got going here in the world of early music. What I would like to see happen in the future of the early music movement, and what my colleagues would like to see in the future, and I think what the public would also like to see in the future, is more offers of early music in large halls and in Europe, all over the world, in large halls with big subscription series. I think we all want this, and what really matters is the public wants this. And that's where I see this going. Already Baroque opera is programmed in the most prestigious opera houses in Europe and throughout the world, and we are all hoping that the next step will be to program other kinds of Baroque instrumental and vocal music, sacred and secular music, in the largest, most prestigious halls in Europe and in the world everywhere. I'd like to encourage all of you to help us with this event, actually. You can organize your own event, you can play, you can sing, you can participate in any number of ways in order to take part in this celebration. All you have to do is register on the internet site. You can also share on Facebook, you can like, you can comment. All you have to do is play or sing.